Hey, we're back, and now we're going to cover issue 2. So, publisher Martin Goodman decided to cancel Marvel Comics right after publishing the first issue, but when it sold out of its entire 80,000 copy print run in the first week, which was the first time anything he published ever sold out, he ordered another 800,000 copies. And on that print run, he had the October date blacked out and the NOV for November placed above it, and it sold out in 6 weeks. So that takes us to issue 2, which had a cover date of December, but was published in October of 1939. But let's back up a bit. The Comics Magazine Company spun off from National Allied Publications, which later became DC Comics, in 1936, and Ultim Publications bought that company in 1937, and Centaur Publications, which had been publishing pulp magazines since 1933, bought them in 1938 and became Centaur Comics. Centaur Comics was only around for 4 years, but in that time, they created Motion Picture Funnies Weekly and Amazing Man. Now, Amazing Man was another character created by Bill Everett after he created the Submariner in Motion Picture Funnies Weekly. And Amazing Man starts with issue 5, and it's possibly because Motion Picture Funnies Weekly ended with issue 4, kind of. And we'll get to that in a second. Amazing Man was the second superhero to have a comic book named after him, after Superman, and he was the inspiration for Marvel's character Iron Fist, which debuted in 1974, and I have a trade paperback of Amazing Man's comics from 1939. So speaking of 1974, discovered in 1974 at the estate sale of the late Centaur Publications art director Lloyd Jacquet were 8 to 9 copies of Motion Picture Funnies Weekly, which before then were not known to exist. And that's where they saw how Namor actually predated Marvel Comics issue 1. But also with that find in the estate sale were proof sheets for the covers for issues 2 through 5 and a mock-up for Marvel Comics issue 2. Now let me show you. Here they are. Here are black and white copies of those proof covers for 2, 3, and 4 of Motion Picture Funnies Weekly, which were just proof sheets. They never actually made the comics inside. And that mock-up for Marvel Comics issue number 2 was first published here in 1978, 4 years after it was discovered. This is by Bill Everett, and he was going to follow, Marvel Comics issue 1, which had the Human Torch, with his counterpart, Namor the Submariner. And on the cover of this magazine, the Marvel Comics Index, that mock-up has been fully illustrated. It is from a scene from inside Marvel Comics issue 2, which we will get to. Here's a nicer quality copy of that mock-up cover. So let's take a look at the actual issue. And here we are. And you can see they've already changed the title of the comic. It's now Marvel Mystery Comics. And they didn't use Namor, they used Angel. Now, this is not a scene depicted from the Angel's comic story. It's from his text story inside, where he got the power of super strength and flight, which are powers he does not have. He does not have powers, but in this text story he does. And the original pencil drawing had his mustache, which was not included when they inked it. This is a clear indication they were trying to trick young readers into thinking this was a Superman comic, who was the most popular comic at the time. Same blue costume with the yellow emblem on the chest and the red cape, flying through the air, young, clean-shaven face. So let's look inside. So check it out. Right on the inside cover, we have an advertisement for Silver Streak Comics issue 1 from Lev Gleason Publications. Now, I covered this in my playlist, the Golden Age Daredevil. Well, in Silver Streak Comics issue 1 was another reprint from Motion Picture Funnies Weekly. It was the story Spy Ring, which featured a character named the Wasp, and it was reprinted here in a feature called The Wasp with a story called The Spy Ring Case. There was one other story beyond the Submariner and Spy Ring from that Motion Picture Funnies Weekly that would get reprinted, and it was reprinted inside issue 2 here of Marvel Mystery Comics, and we will get to it. But right now we start with the Human Torch. Now, as you can see here on the first page, he still does not have the power of flight. He's lighter than air, but he can only leap a few blocks. Still, up to this point, Namor the Submariner is the only superhero character that can fly. Well, I guess now we've depicted the Angel with the power of flight too, but this is before Superman could fly either. Down at the racetrack, car is going off the track, crashes, it's on fire, and a fireman saves the guy on fire. That's interesting. And look, we have another car on fire that he needs to go save. What is going on? A plane on fire. They've tricked him into jumping in a vat of water. They've dumped him into boiling lime. Now he's running faster than the race cars. Oh, look out. They're wearing asbestos suits and they spray him down with a hose and bury him in molten steel. My gosh. But wow, he escapes. Good for you, Torch. Much more action ensues. Chasing down the bad guys, saving the day, and we end with him turning over the bad guys to the police commissioner. And on to the Angel. So they're in Hong Kong, but every time they write out the word Hong Kong in this comic, they squish it together as if it's one word. See? There. Was Hong Kong one word back then? I've been to Hong Kong, and that fact was never brought up. Look, the Angel has Superman's original wrestling or ancient Greek sandals, like from Circus Strongmen that Superman had in that first issue of Action Comics. But try as I might, I just don't care about this character. Besides his little pencil-thin dapper mustache, there's just nothing interesting about him. Even his action scenes look pretty stale. Okay, here we go, the Submariner. They're still doing that thing where underwater he's blue, above water he's flesh. I like that. And here we go, here's that scene depicted in the cover mock-up that was unused. Coming right out of the water pipe with the two guys, the workmen, standing by. So the alarm goes off, Namor escapes, cop is trying to stop him, he just starts shooting at the guy. Look at that. You're not allowed to do that, are you? Just shooting at people running away? I mean, he's not armed. Look at that, Namor just catches the bullet out of midair, plays with it under the water like a pebble. That's awesome. Flips their boat and flies away through the air. This is the greatest character, I love it. Oh, look at that, he's choking a hobo. Some woman's on fire and he puts her out. That's cool. What's with the disguise? This is bizarre. Hitches a ride on the ambulance. Okay. Starts knocking hospital workers out. Uh-oh. I guess he's rescuing the mummy girl from getting dreaded medical attention. Oh my God, he picks up the cop car and throws it, killing the law officers. What in the world? Oh, one of the brave officers survives and dives into the water to save the girl before she can be drowned. And Namor kills the cop, drowns him under the water. Wait a minute. Is this supposed to be a superhero? Okay, so the Masked Raider got our Western tale. It's kind of a weird one. He's going undercover as a guy without a mask. Doesn't make sense. I guess if you don't want to be known as the Masked Raider, you just take the mask off. And nobody knows who you are. Put the mask back on at the end. Put her there, partner. Okay, American Ace. So here we have a true story from World War I, but it's not that fun of a read. But I'll tell you what it is. It's a colorized reprint from Motion Picture Funnies Weekly. So there we have it. This also predates Marvel Comics. And now we get to the text story, which is the origin of the cover art that was used. He flexed his lithe muscles and bounded lightly to the top of the highest building in sight. And as the closest Junkers bomber loomed directly overhead, the Angel again bent low, put his mighty arms behind him, and with a rapid calculation of the speed and height of the plane, the Angel threw his arms forward, pushed downwards with his powerful legs at the same time, and sped through the air, the black of night, like the speed of a high-caliber bullet. Closer, ever closer, he traveled toward the massive plane, and then he grasped it. The Angel's nimble small but strong fingers closed tightly around one of the wheel pants on the leading bomber. He held on grimly, the slipstream blasting around his body like the breath of some ancient monster, trying to throw him off, to hurl him to the earth in a shapeless mass. The Angel picked up the pilot and threw him straight at the figure of the gunner. The two men fell silently to the floor of the bomber, their skulls crushed like eggshells. The Angel's cape waved blood red behind his blue-clad figure as he hurtled through the air and landed easily on the street below. Wow. Okay, the adventures of Khazar the Great. So we are continuing our illustrated adaptation of the first pulp story featuring Khazar from the magazines that were printed in 1936 and 37 by Marvel, or I should say Timely. Khazar is to the lions what Tarzan was to the apes. And this illustrated adaptation would end with issue 5. After that, they were original stories, which ended with issue 27. And that was the last time we ever saw the Golden Age Khazar, aka David Rand, and his lion friend Zar. Marvel would bring him back in X-Men issue 10 in the 1960s, but that Khazar was named Kevin Plunder, and his lion friend was a saber-toothed lion named Zabu. More on him in a second. Here is the inside back cover, just a couple of gags, and the outside back cover with a few more gags. Now I've got something to show you. I picked this up at my local comic store. It's Khazar, the action figure. So right here we have the right front leg, because this is a build-a-figure wave. If you get all the action figures you can build, Khazar's companion, Zabu. Unfortunately, I don't want any of these other characters. Oh yeah, me likey. Oh, how cool is that? Love it. Woo! Lots of joints. Well, you can put him in all kinds of poses, and I'll have to do that. Until next time.